All right, welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today, we're going to be diving into the world of AI reasoning models, which is kind of a fascinating topic. It's like AI is learning to think like us. At least that's kind of the promise here. And we're going to be looking at a really interesting article called AI Reasoning Models, The Next Frontier in Artificial Intelligence by Kurt Robbins, who is a senior technical writer who's had really quite an impressive career working with companies like Microsoft and FedEx and Wells Fargo. So really interesting background there. But, for those of you out there who are technical writers or documentation experts, IT professionals, this shift in AI, the reasoning models are really going to change how we work and how we interact with technology. So really important stuff to be paying attention to.
Yeah, one of the things that I find really fascinating about this whole topic is that, we're moving beyond the idea of AI simply recognizing patterns. We're now talking about AI that can analyze information, understand context, and even apply logic to problem solve. It's almost like a digital version of the human thought process.
Yeah, that's the part that really kind of caught my eye too, is this thinking like us aspect of it. Can you maybe bring that down a little bit? Like, how do these reasoning models actually work? I mean, it still kind of feels a little bit like science fiction to me.
Well, it's a complex field, obviously, but the basic idea is that these models are built using different approaches to problem solving. So, one approach is what's called symbolic reasoning, which relies on predefined rules and logic. It's similar to how an expert system works, drawing on a knowledge base to deduce conclusions. So, for example, if an AI knows that all dogs are mammals and that Fido is a dog, it can deduce that Fido is a mammal.
So it's kind of like a digital Sherlock Holmes using pure logic to
Exactly.
crack the case.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's a great analogy. But there's another approach which is called probabilistic reasoning. And this is all about weighing probabilities and making judgments based on likelihood. This is very common in areas like game playing, where an AI might calculate the best move by analyzing the potential outcomes of different actions.
so it's less about certainty and more about, making the best decision based on the available information, even if there's some uncertainty involved.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, things get even more interesting when we start talking about neurosymbolic reasoning. And this combines the learning capabilities of deep learning with the logical structure of symbolic reasoning. It's kind of like giving the AI access to a vast library of information and then teaching it how to reason about that information logically.
So it's not just about crunching numbers or following rules, it's about understanding the meaning behind the data.
You got it. And then there's a type of model that's focused on what we call common sense reasoning. And this is all about teaching AI the obvious things that humans take for granted. Things like understanding cause and effect, social norms, everyday knowledge.
Okay, that sounds incredibly challenging. How do you even begin to teach a machine common sense?
It is a huge undertaking, and researchers are still exploring different approaches to this, but the potential is enormous. I mean, imagine an AI that can understand not just what you're saying, but what you actually mean, or one that can anticipate your needs based on your past behavior. That's the power of common sense reasoning.
Wow. Okay, so this is all really fascinating, but let's maybe bring it back down to earth for a minute. Why should our listeners, especially those in the technical writing world, really care about these advancements?
Well, because AI reasoning models are poised to fundamentally change how we interact with technology, and that has huge implications for technical writers. I mean, just think about, for example, how we design user interfaces for AI-powered tools. We need to ensure that those interfaces are intuitive and easy to understand, even when the underlying AI is making complex decisions.
So instead of just explaining how to use a piece of software, we'll be explaining how the AI behind that software thinks and works.
Exactly, and that's just one example. Think about documenting AI decision-making processes or creating interactive tutorials that adapt to the user's learning style. As AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives, technical writers will be essential in making those technologies understandable and accessible to everyone.
Yeah, it's a whole new way of thinking about technical communication. And, as these AI reasoning models evolve, we're going to need to keep pace with those advancements, constantly learning, refining our skills.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like this could be a real game changer for our whole profession. But let's maybe dive into some specific examples of how these reasoning models are already being used.
Sure.
What are some real world applications that our listeners might be familiar with?
Well, you've probably heard of ChatGPT, the AI chatbot that can generate incredibly human-like text.
Right.
And what's interesting is that OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is really actively integrating better reasoning mechanisms into the model.
So it's not just about stringing words together anymore. There's actual logic and reasoning behind the responses. That's the goal they're working on, making ChatGPT more coherent, consistent, and even able to follow complex instructions. It's a glimpse into how AI reasoning could transform the way we communicate and interact with machines.
Okay, interesting. And what other models are kind of pushing the boundaries of AI reasoning right now?
Well, another fascinating example is Claude, which is developed by a company called Anthropic.
Hmm.
And they're putting a strong emphasis on AI safety and reasoning, trying to ensure that these models behave ethically and align with human values.
Yeah, that seems incredibly important as these models become more powerful and autonomous. Are there any others that we should have on our radar?
Well, Google's DeepMind is making waves with something called Gemini. And this is a model that combines reasoning with multimodal capabilities. So imagine an AI that can process information from text, images, and videos, and then use reasoning to connect the dots and draw conclusions. It's incredible to think about the potential of AI that can understand and reason across different modalities like that. It really is a paradigm shift, and it's happening faster than many people realize. Going back to Kurt Robbins' article, he highlights four key impacts of reasoning models that are particularly relevant for technical writers.
Okay, let's break those down. So first on his list is better decision making.
Yeah.
It seems kind of intuitive that AI that can reason logically would make better decisions.
Right. Yeah, in theory, that's true, but it's not as simple as just plugging in some logic and getting perfect answers. These models are still trained on data, and that data can contain biases or inaccuracies. So while AI reasoning can certainly improve decision making, it's crucial to remember that human oversight and critical thinking are still essential.
Okay, so it's not about replacing human judgment, but rather augmenting it with AI's analytical capabilities.
Exactly. The next thing that Robbins emphasizes is the importance of explainability and trust. One of the biggest criticisms of traditional AI, especially deep learning, is its black box nature. We often don't know how it arrives at its conclusions.
Right, right. So reasoning models kind of aim to make the decision-making process more transparent. No more AI magic tricks. We actually get to see the logic behind the curtain.
That's the goal, and that transparency is essential for building trust. I mean, imagine a medical diagnosis or a financial decision made by an AI. Wouldn't you want to understand the reasoning behind those decisions?
Absolutely, especially when the stakes are high.
Mm.
Now, what about this idea of natural human AI interaction? Does this mean we'll finally be able to have a decent conversation with a chatbot without wanting to tear our hair out?
Well, I think we're all hoping for that. But the idea here is that AI will be able to understand us better, not just our words, but our intentions and emotions. We're talking about AI assistants that can anticipate our needs, offer personalized recommendations, and maybe even provide emotional support.
Wow, that would be a game changer. It sounds like AI could become more of a partner than just a tool at that point.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final impact that Robbins highlights, which is advancements in automation and knowledge representation. With reasoning capabilities, AI can sift through massive amounts of data, analyze complex relationships, and then use that knowledge to automate tasks that were previously impossible for machines to handle.
Okay, so we're talking about AI taking on more complex roles, freeing up humans to focus on higher level thinking and problem solving.
That's the optimistic view, and it's certainly within the realm of possibility. But as with any technological advancement, there will be challenges and disruptions along the way.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like this is just the beginning of a much larger conversation about the role of AI in our lives. So where do we go from here? What does all of this mean for technical writers who are just starting to wrap their heads around these advancements?
It feels like we're kind of on the verge of this major shift in how we interact with technology, and as technical writers, we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. And the key, it seems like, is to kind of embrace this shift proactively, to see it not as a threat, but as this incredible opportunity to to expand our skills and redefine our role in this digital world.
Absolutely.
So let's get practical.
Yeah.
What are some concrete steps that our listeners can take to kind of prepare for this AI-powered future? What kind of knowledge or skills should we be focusing on?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say it's crucial to develop a solid understanding of AI reasoning models themselves. We need to go beyond the surface level and really grasp how these models work, what their strengths and limitations are, and how they differ from traditional AI approaches.
Okay, so brushing up on our AI knowledge is a good starting point. But beyond that, What specific roles or tasks do you see kind of emerging for technical writers in this new landscape?
Well, one area that's going to be huge is documenting AI decision-making processes. As AI takes on more and more responsibility, we'll need to be able to clearly explain how those decisions are being made both to technical and non-technical audiences.
Right? It's almost like we'll be translating the language of AI into something everyone can understand. Transparency is going to be more important than ever.
Absolutely, and that transparency needs to extend to the user interface as well. Technical writers will play a critical role in designing interfaces that guide users on how to interpret AI-generated insights, how to interact with reasoning-based models effectively, and how to identify potential issues or limitations.
So we're not just writing documentation anymore. We're shaping the entire user experience around AI.
Exactly. We're becoming user advocates in a sense, ensuring that people can understand and trust these powerful new technologies. And let's not forget about the importance of continuous learning. AI is a rapidly evolving field, so we need to stay up to date with the latest advancements and be willing to adapt our skills accordingly.
Yeah. It sounds like a challenging but incredibly exciting time to be a technical writer.
It is, and it's a time where our unique skills and perspectives are more valuable than ever. We have the ability to bridge the gap between the complex world of AI and the human beings who will be using these technologies every day.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about AI safety and ethics. As these reasoning models become more powerful and autonomous, how can we ensure that they're being used responsibly? What role can technical writers play in that conversation?
That's a crucial question, and one that we need to be actively engaged in. As technical writers, we have a deep understanding of how information is conveyed and how it can influence people's perceptions. We can use that knowledge to help shape ethical guidelines for AI development and deployment, ensuring that these systems are used in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, but also a tremendous opportunity to make a real difference in the world.
I agree, and I think Kurt Robbins sums it up perfectly in his article when he says that technical writers are going to be essential in making this new wave of AI understandable and trustworthy.
Well said. Well, that brings our deep dive into AI reasoning models to a close. It's been a fascinating journey exploring the capabilities of these new technologies, their potential impact on various industries, and the exciting possibilities they hold for the future of technical writing. And to our listeners, I encourage you to continue exploring this topic, to stay curious, and to embrace the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. The world of AI is rapidly evolving, and those who are willing to learn and adapt will be the ones who shape its future.